Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, my question is from Hetal. How is your robot, the one that you have designed?
Acha,
How
just
is
for
it?
the 1 minute before, maybe can you introduce from which school you are from so that we get to know that whom you are talking to? Yes.
Yes, sir, sure. I am Astha Khandelwal and I am from DPS Vasant Kunj. And my question is from Hetal. How is your
Hmm.
robot specific for use at hospitals? I mean, it can be used practically anywhere from what I have seen because it's a mobile robot that can carry stuff around. So
Go
why
ahead, Etal.
specifically
Yeah.
hospitals?
So the main target for the GPPL which was hosted was to have to do robotics in a simulated environment. And as an example, with due to the COVID pandemic, work in the laboratories was not possible. So we chose an example, a case study where we can have robots in COVID hospitals. So obviously, what you said is really a valid point that these robots, the robot which I showcased, a mobile robot, is useful in almost every scenario. And for hospital purposes, we can there is this technology called telemedicine, which has like tablets and all attached to robots, which help in better communication between patients and the doctors. And those things can be mounted onto our robot. And then uh, there are also robots for surgeries and all. And especially for the COVID scenario, this robot was important in the sense that for patients who have been quarantined, so no physical interaction can be done with them. So a robot is always a better option.
Yeah, just to add to what Hetal said, you are right, Asta. It's a mobile robot, can have any application. In this example, hospital scenario was chosen by this robot. It was not that the robot has been designed for the medical application. Rather, the environment was chosen by us, and all the programming and the simulation was done keeping if it is in a hospital environment with beds around, people working. So that environment has been simulated in line with the hospital. That's what it is. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Hetal.
Yeah. Next question.
Hello, sir. I am Jamit, and my question is from
Which
Varun.
school? Which school?
I study in Mangalam World School.
Okay, go ahead.
So my question is from Varun.
Mm.
The robot you just showed us,
Yeah,
basically, I wanted to ask what more do you think the robots could do in this field of medicine, especially catering to the implantation needs?
I mean, since this is a parallel type of robot, as Professor Saha explained earlier, imagine this robot is not the size it is right now, but it is 10, 20, or 50 times bigger. You could essentially put an aircraft cabin on top of it and place a pilot inside that cabin and have the pilot control the robot so he would get a good idea about the plane as it would be when it's in the air. So these things can be used for numerous applications, flight simulators, and they can also be used for, like, let's say we have a little robot on Mars, and once the robot is on Mars and it has to send a signal back to Earth, the direction in which the signal is projected is super critical. So making sure that the signal is projected towards our Earth at a predetermined angle could be made possible with the help of these parallel robots because they have 6 degrees of freedom, meaning they can move in all the axes X, Y, and Z, and they can rotate about all the axes as well.
Okay, just to assist or add what is been. So you could see this is a truck simulator where you have the similar thing, 6 legs, no, moving the truck, and then what Varun has showed, it is from the Varun's lab only. So this is the one which is similar thing, that how the laser spot is being followed. You see. Okay, let me stop. Okay, good.
Thank you, sir.
I
Thank
hope,
you very much.
yeah, of course.
Next question.
So, I am Garg from Nabu Convent School. I had a doubt on the mobile robot. How would you differentiate between when you're mapping out the hospital? How would you differentiate between obstacles which are temporary? For example, a person standing there or a tray sitting there, which will be moved after a certain amount of time.
Hetal will give
Okay.
the answer.
Yeah.
Those have to be registered as temporary obstacles, wouldn't they?
Yeah. So I think my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what a mobile robot has is that there are two kinds of maps. One is called the global cost map, and the other is called the local cost map. So for a robot, a small region is selected as a local cost map. So what happens is that when I showed you about G mapping, the whole area is evacuated and then a map is created. So it only consists of constant obstacles, okay, constant or rigid, okay. And after that, when we have the local cost map, so there is this phenomena or a principle called SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping. So what we have here is that when a robot is moving in an environment, what happens is that it has the laser sensor, so it will detect its surrounding. If there is any obstacle, okay, even if it overrides an obstacle in the global cost map, so it will detect it as an obstacle and it will avoid this one also. So what the overall map is, it is a union of the GCM and the LCM. Okay, so in this way you have taken into account all the rigid obstacles and all the temporary obstacles. I hope this helps.
And then you won't store the LCM map permanently. It can
No,
change.
the LCM map is calculated at the very same moment while the robot is moving.
Okay, nice.
Okay, next. Yeah, Asta again.
Sir, in the very first robot that you had shown us, the robot was able to differentiate when an immobile object was there and when it was close to a human. How was it able to do that, sir?
It was the Janmashtami thing you were meaning?
Yes,
Or
sir.
the-
When the robot was moving in an office and then there was a block placed in the middle and it turned around. But then when a human came, it stopped. How was it able to differentiate?
Well, there are various sensors are there. There is something called LiDAR. It is a laser-based sensor. It is not all the time the human height. So maybe there is a sensor at the bottom, and then there's a sensor might be on the top somewhere. But I cannot really tell you that what algorithm they have used in that phenomena. So there could be several ways to do it. One is to imagine that, okay, there is a human being whose height is 5 feet or 6 feet. So you can have 2-3 sensor in between. That could be one. The second could be tricky thing. No, it is not that human I am interested to detect, but my destination is located at some point. Maybe it is some marker which has been seen by the cameras, right? So in this particular case, I do not know whether Hetal would know by any chance. Hetal, would you know this one?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So what Asta is talking about is the human robot interaction mode. So the way we detect humans is whether any human interaction is going on or not is by using 4 sensors in the wheels of the robot. So what happens is that the robot knows that it is not applying any torque on the motors to move itself, but it feels that there is this back EMF generated. Like you must have seen a dynamo. What happens there is that when you rotate the rotor, it will generate current. Okay, so those motors will detect that yes, there is some current generated from the motor. This is called back EMF. So the strength of this back EMF will tell us whether the robot is being pushed by an external force or not. So if there is this external force, it means that some human is pushing it.
Understood. So thank you very much. Thank you, Hetal.